Welcome back to Developer Stream 2 Electric Boogaloo. And if you thought the first one was bad, well, I'm sorry, little buddy, it doesn't get much better with this one. However, there was a tiny little bit of actual new content showed in the DLC that we paid for that's coming out in approximately 2 weeks. Now, moving on to the actual content of the live stream, you're seeing some of it. We did get a launch trailer today, and as always, Bungie's marketing team, when they actually can commit to making a shiny video for us to look at to market their game, do a fantastic job as always. I was always hitting up their former director of marketing to tell him in the past that they should release these things earlier. And hey, you know what? 2 weeks is better than 3 days before the expansion releases. I hate the veneer of secrecy, the quote-unquote redacted that Bungie has been doing for years now. I think it's terrible marketing techniques. However, you know, we are getting this 2 weeks earlier. It's a shiny process trailer. A little bit of weirdness with the new Guardian Lodi, not Ty Lopez, Ty Lopez Lodi, and some other, you know, minor story elements. Obviously, you can see the Drifter ship. We've known for a little bit he's going to be in here. We got a small snippet of the raid and/or six-man activity, but it is likely the raid, considering that it takes place in the the Nines realm, the Eternity quote-unquote type background. And just pay attention to this next bit because this shit's pretty raw.
Eyes up, weapon.
No, that's pretty much it. I like the trailer. Most people like the trailer. They do a good job at making trailers. There's nothing wrong with it. However, moving into the actual developer stream, once again, we have my best friend, Dylan Gaffner, running it with, a couple of guests. The guests really don't matter. Dylan's on the comm again, and he's going to show us a couple of new things that we are supposed to be very excited about. Now, fortunately, this time we did get some actual Kepler gameplay, what you're seeing on screen now. I'm not going to show the entirety. The link is in the description for the live stream if you're actually interested in watching this entire thing. They just run through one of the story missions. Now, these story missions do a couple of things unique compared to previous ones. They allegedly have more replayability secrets built into them with the understanding that you're going to be able to revisit them and use the tools you get access to during the campaign, similar to the way that Beyond Light did it with kind of like the crux, with all the cruxes, and you had to unlock the ability to open the different crux rooms to progress your stasis subclass back in the day. But this replayability is going to come via the form of a daily and weekly rotating playlists. Obviously there's going to be a lot of difficulty components to it, customizable difficulty via the portal. We're going to get to that later because I have a lot to say about that. And generally speaking, Kepler looks cool. The abilities look cool. It all looks smooth. The looks at the new weapon types we're getting: the new exotic hand cannon, the new pulse rifle rocket launcher type B. Obviously it all looks cool. We've seen some of it before, but it's an actual story mission. And moving on to the actual next thing that they showed, and then they moved on to the portal, and I am really not a fan of it. Knowing Bungie will probably be stuck with this for around 3 or so years. Hopefully they'll turn tail and change their mind about the portal, but I feel that this is the start, or at least getting us further into the Fortnite-ification of Destiny. Not say this entire stream was a waste of time, but besides Kepler, we just got to watch the developers do an Empire hunt for like 20-something minutes, and talk about various systems that are coming into the game, all of which we have already known about. The new thing that we really got an in-depth dive to was this portal. So without further ado, it's easy for me to say I don't like the portal, specifically because we have had examples of this with other AAA games in the past 5 or so years going towards a streaming service style of content delivery. Now, I'm exclusively just talking about presentation here. The choice to refuse to update the directory, if you don't already know, where you can see all the planets, your Strike, Gambit, Crucible, whatever. The directory as it currently exists is going to be that way for the foreseeable future. The only thing new that's getting added is its name is being changed to quote-unquote World, and the portal is getting added, as you can see, with its own specific tab for it, portal. Now, just to make an emotional argument on how I feel about this, change so scary. The directory has been the lifeblood of Destiny since vanilla. We have never known anything but it, and you can say, oh, going into a new era needs something for a new generation. I kind of disagree. The style of the directory was something that Destiny had, nobody else really did. We got an update once a year. They were always very, very well done artistically, at least. Sometimes elements were a little bit difficult to navigate, specifically the Pale Heart, for example, the Pale Heart and formerly the Tangled Shore. The Pale Heart specifically is a little bit hard to navigate if you don't know what you're looking for. I sometimes find it a bit of a pain in the ass scrolling over to the entire right side of the screen just to launch Salvation's Edge, but I feel that these trade-offs are worth it considering the fact that it is what makes a Destiny menu a menu. I'm sure there's plenty of talented UI artists who are very disappointed right now seeing essentially a Netflix, Fortnite, Roblox. This is just a streaming service level slop. I do not like it specifically because it is against the identity of Destiny, though I do understand the argument that this is a new era of the game and sometimes change is necessary. Now, I will talk about something I do, kind of like about the portal, and that being the selectable difficulty modifiers for each individual activity. From what I've been able to gather, under every single activity, there is a button to customize the difficulty, and with that, you are able to add various different modifiers on, with that being the person in the lead in terms of ad clear, whoever has the most kills takes more damage, or there are positive multipliers where you get more heavy ammo, or you do deal increased precision damage but decreased body damage. You can specifically select certain banes, the amount of banes you're going to be receiving, and all these things contribute towards a multiplier. We used to have something like this in the form of Nightfall challenge cards. Those only did specifically apply to Nightfalls at a certain time. However, this is going to apply towards the entire game all at the same time. It is entirely optional too. You do not need to interact with the customizing difficulty portion of all activities if you do not want to. However, we can only assume, and they told us, that the best gear is going to be locked behind score. So, you're playing on an expert difficulty, but you have like a 7-8 times multiplier. You may be able to get the tier 5 armor, or be able to get the platinum rewards at the end of it. Or if you're playing on the ultimate difficulty, the ultimate being the new difficulty that they're adding, one higher than Grandmaster. Grandmaster Nightfalls are dead, but you're playing on that higher difficulty. You can play with less multipliers, be able to still hit that S tier or that A+ tier, whatever they decide the final, letter grade is going to be. And I feel that these are all positive changes. The quote-unquote bringing the challenge back to Destiny crowd should be very, very satisfied with this. It is a completely optional system that if you interact with it, you get bonus rewards. You get more rewards than, you would normally expect to get under the same circumstances. Is not to say that if you don't use these difficulty modifiers that you're not going to be getting, the tier 5 gear in the new system. It's just that it's going to be easier to get more tier 5 gear in the new system if you spend the time to actually learn these new systems. But when I sit here and I look at the portal, I can't help but think to myself that there had to have been a way to do this more intelligently than simply copy pasting Netflix, copy pasting Fortnite, Roblox, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not a person who normally is opposed to change like this, but it's just my gut feeling that this is the antithesis of what has made, menu gameplay, whatever, the actual navigation of our game special. It just doesn't look good, and despite the fact that I haven't got a chance to interact with it, I can predict that this isn't going to feel good. Now, eventually, I will learn it. Maybe my feelings about this will change. I'm not some bitter clinger who is very, very disappointed about all of the new changes in the new season. That being, all of the armor set bonuses and, the DR and the extra weapon damage, like the percentages that you get that actually encourage you to use new things. I'm not somebody who is digging my heels in the sand desperately hanging on to the hope that I'm going to be able to use my same weapon that I farmed out in Forsaken, still now, the same armor I farmed out at the beginning of Shadowkeep, right? As soon as, or whenever they introduced Adept armor. I'm not that kind of person. I'm glad that things are changing. I can't put it into words about how much I do not like this. And the entire reason this entire video has been me just bitching. I genuinely feel this. It is just me complaining about the portal is because I don't have any other alternative to say besides make the directory better. I mean, there's nothing to do besides update it with, you know, the new planet. Maybe you can condense or collapse the Vanguard Crucible and the Strike playlists, and just combine them into one something to free up a little bit more space. We've been through this. We've been through this before. Yeah, we've been through this before. Nobody knew where Pale Heart was gonna go at first, but they figured it out. Now, I think I'm done. I think I'm done complaining. I have basically spent the past 45 minutes recording and re-recording and trying to not be negative and try to produce any solutions. However, that's why the title of this video is what it is, the Fortnite-ification of Destiny. I am fundamentally opposed to this specific UI change because I feel that it is going to go into a curated direction where the only thing people are going to be seeing is, oh, this is the stuff that we're going to throw at you on the front page. We already know that Gambit activities aren't going to be prioritized next season. What's not to say that they're not going to completely drop the Strike playlist? You know, I like the ability, the idea to be able to select, you know, individual items or individual activities. For example, you know, want to go play Birthplace of the Vile for some god knows reason. I like the ability to be able to click on that. However, we have a directory for that. We don't need a portal. Making the directory more accessible, I say, but you know, this is system bloat at its finest. This is 8 years of building into the same environment that this is the future. This is the future. I hope that they do change their minds and actually give us an updated directory. But yeah, the portal's the future. That is pretty much it. If you made it this far, please tell me what you think about it in the comments section below. And besides that, I hope each and every single one of you has a fantastic day. You're doing great. You're doing great today. And I hope you continue to do better for the rest of the week. Yeah, the Edge of Fate, it's 2 weeks away. Two whole American weeks away, 1.5 Canadian weeks away. So I'm very excited for that. I would like to thank you all for watching and take care now.